Hello boys and girls, welcome back to another English language lesson for grade 7. I'm your teacher, Sir Jared McPhoy, and today we want to look at semi-formal speech. So let's dive right in. Now, what is semi-formal speech? Semi-formal speech deals with the various kinds of interaction we have on a day-to-day basis with your classmates, your peers, colleagues, teachers, even with popular magazines or books, interviews, or when talking with someone in authority or someone whom you respect. Now let's examine some structures that we can use when writing semi-formal speeches or when even speaking in a semi-formal manner. Let's go. The first one. Phrasal verbs and contractions. Yes, you can use phrasal verbs and contractions. They're okay. Now let's look at an example. Could you look over this report? Could you look over this report? And let's look at that phrase there, look over. All right, and in look over, it means to review and check for errors in this context. Let's look at another example. She came up with a great idea. She came up with a great idea. That phrase there, came up with, it means in this context, created, invented, or thought of. Let's look at another example. I am available on Friday morning. I'm available on Friday morning. Here, we have the contraction I'm, meaning I am available on Friday morning. So the contraction is okay in this context of semi-formal speech. Then we have another one. The directors weren't happy. The directors weren't happy. We have the contraction weren't, meaning were not. Number 2, some idioms are okay, but avoid slang and text speech. Let me say that again. Some idioms are okay, so you can use some idioms once appropriate, but you must avoid using slangs or text speech. For example, this project is on the back burner. This project is on the back burner. Now you have on the back burner, and this speaks to what? What does this mean in this context? It means not a priority at the moment. All right? So that idiom there, on the back burner. Another example. We're operating in the red. We're operating in the red. And here, in the red means no money or negative cash flow. Now let's look at a structure that we can use in the semi-formal manner if you're inviting your boss. Would you like to join me for lunch? Would you like to join me for lunch? That's appropriate. Or let's look at if you're inviting your best friend out. Hey, wanna grab a bite to eat? Hey, wanna grab a bite to eat? All right, let's continue. Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Now this is appropriate in the semi-formal context. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, if this is okay in the semi-formal context, what does it look like in the informal context? The informal context, someone would just say something like, what's up? What's up? Or, let's look at another one. In the semi-formal context, it's okay to say something like, the conference was great. The conference was great. Now let's see how this would be expressed in the informal context. It was awesome. It was the bomb. So someone can say it was awesome, or they can say it was the bomb. There is a difference. Now thirdly, in semi-formal speeches, you want to use polite English. You do not want to come across as rude or sarcastic. For example, you can say, I'd like instead of I want. I'd like instead of I want. And as we know, our parents don't like when we come to them and just say, I want a piece of bread to eat. No. When making requests, use could you and please. Don't just give commands. You can say, could you please call me later? And not just call me later. There's a difference. Another part of polite English is making criticisms and negative comments in an indirect way. You're wrong. That's not appropriate in the semi-formal context. Instead, you can say something like, I'm afraid you're mistaken. So instead of just saying, you're wrong, you can say, I'm afraid you're mistaken. Let's look at another example. Instead of just saying, I disagree, you can say something along the lines of, I'm of a different opinion, or I see it differently. Let's look at another example. This is terrible work. This is terrible work. Instead of saying that, you can say something like, this could be improved. This could be improved. Let's look at one more example. I don't like it. I don't like it. Instead of saying that, you can say, I really don't care for it, or it's not my cup of tea, or you could even say, I'd prefer, and then you go along to state what you'd prefer. Now let's examine the body of a letter, and let's examine how they use the semi-formal structure in composing this body. Let's go. Dear Mrs. Amble, I'm writing to you to request a meeting to discuss some issues that have arisen with a member of my team. I have been working with Ronnie Smith for over a year now, and while he was a model member of the team, he has now become distant and irritable. Last week, he disappeared during a very important lesson and reappeared over 3 hours later with no explanation. When confronted, he made a flimsy excuse for his whereabouts. I can assure you that I have been very flexible and understanding over previous time management issues. However, his erratic behavior is becoming more frequent. I would like to meet with you on Wednesday the 15th at 3 p.m. and examine the best way to approach this situation. I hope this is an acceptable time to meet. Please contact me at the earliest opportunity to rearrange if there is a problem. Yours sincerely, Stephen King. Now this letter covers 3 main points. Why he is writing to her, gives for the details of the problem in the second paragraph, and in the final paragraph when he would like to have a meeting to discuss it further. It has been clearly organized with each key point being written about in a separate paragraph. We see that paragraph 1 explains why he is writing to the boss. Paragraph 2 details the issue or problem. And paragraph 3 gives dates or times that they can arrange a meeting. More importantly, the tone of the letter is polite. And earlier we spoke about the importance of being polite and therefore appropriate, as it is being sent to a work colleague. I am writing to you to request. I can assure you, please contact me at the earliest opportunity. So those are examples that we see being used in the body of the letter. There is also evidence of a range of sentence structures no grammatical or spelling errors. So I want you to be conscious of your writing and your speaking when you are doing it in the semi-formal manner. I want to thank you for participating in this lesson. I hope you would have learned a lot. And until we meet next time, I'm Sir Jared, and I'm out.